ignorance, or abuse. In order to successfully get your parents to support you in your pursuit to become a reconnaissance man, you'll have to be able to assess why they're against it. And here are the two general reasons why your parents will be against it. The first and most common reason is that they are ignorant about the economic realities of today's labor market, college degrees, and the education bubble. They're stuck in the 1960s and still think in order to be successful, you must go to college. The second, and much worse, reason is that they are abusive and controlling, and like the aforementioned clients above, don't really have your best interests at heart. They either view you as property to advance their own aims, want to use your success as a means to brag to other family members, you must become a doctor, or simply had you for purely religious reasons. Whatever the reason, they do not view you as a sentient individual with his or her own dreams, hopes, or even rights. Once you find out whether it's ignorance or abuse, that will determine the argument you'll present to your parents for becoming a reconnaissance man. If your parents are merely ignorant about today's education bubble, a logical, honest, and empirical argument should convince them. Show them the actual data on student loans, the unemployment rate for people with college degrees, the underemployment rate for the same, the rate of tuition inflation, not to mention the thousands of horror stories where college graduates can't find jobs. Explain to them that you don't want to waste your time, your money, let alone their money, on a degree or education you just aren't sure of. Explain that you do indeed have a plan for your future and becoming a reconnaissance man is a vital first part of it. Even having them read the first few chapters of this book makes for a compelling argument that should convince most parents to support you. There is no guarantee they will condone your decision, but any reasonable, caring parent will see the wisdom in taking your time before rushing off to college. The second instance is where your parents are abusive and, unfortunately, no amount of reasoning, evidence, logic, or empiricism will convince them, because it will all fall on deaf ears. They have no interest in what's in your best interests, and will either cut funding, communication, or both if you don't do what they want you to do. Since their interests run contrary to yours, and they enforce their interests over yours via financing, you have only one choice: total self-reliance. Self-reliance. It amazed me in the 90s and continues to amaze me today just what a high percentage of 20-somethings and 30-somethings are financially dependent upon their parents. Getting help with rent, mommy paying the cell phone bill, daddy paying the car insurance, even parents who pay off their kids' student loans. You're 25 years old and you're still collecting an allowance and your mom buys you groceries? But whereas I envied my college peers who had a free ride through college, cars bought and paid for, free food, free healthcare, and free, well, everything, there was one thing I did not envy. They always needed permission from their parents to do anything. And I continue to see this today with my clients at Asshole Consulting. The 23-year-old whose parents will cut him off financially if he doesn't return to school. The 19-year-old whose parents won't pay for her tuition because they disapproved of her major. Even 30-year-olds whose parents force them to attend church because they pay for the rent. Here's a concept. Why don't you support yourself? While 100% self-supportation is incredibly difficult, it is possible and it allows you 100% freedom to pursue your life as you please. Yes, you may have to eat ramen noodles. Yes, you may have to sleep on a couch for 3 years. And yes, you may not get to go on spring break in Florida every year. But you don't have to answer to your parents, major in what they tell you to, date who they want you to, or worship whichever god they command you to. In being 100% self-supporting, you don't need them, and can therefore do what you want. Of course, becoming a 100% self-supporting adult fresh out of high school is difficult. Pay is low, you have no skills, and you may have to work multiple jobs. But to that I say, tough. I worked full-time while going to school full-time. Lived in basements and slept on futons for 12 years to make ends meet. There was no partying or getting hammered. There was work, then school, and then some more work and school. Same thing with my friends I worked with in college. They'd work weekends, overnight shifts, holidays, and overtime, all so they could support themselves and not have to answer to anybody. And if you ever think working a full-time job and supporting yourself is tough, just remind yourself of our ostracized Iranian friend who lives out of his SUV and still manages to pull it off. There is no doubt that for an unfortunate number of you, this will be the largest hurdle to becoming a reconnaissance man. But the problem is there is no other choice. You can forever be a slave to your parents, or you can live your own life.